right, good evening, band nerds. I'm a couple minutes early, but I'm usually a couple minutes late, so we'll split the difference. Call it early today, and we should be good to go. Um, I want to thank you guys for watching last night. Last night was a little bit impromptu on the Great Bassoon stream. Just with Jared and I decided to do that. A few minutes beforehand. Probably an hour or so beforehand, and we were going to do it on Jared's channel, but he was having some technical difficulties. And then, if you made it all the way through the 2.5 hours we talked last night, I had technical difficulties. But long story short, we've got a few pieces that are in the process of ready to go. I think Jared is printing one now. I'll be printing that piece tomorrow. So we'll actually have actual pieces of the Great Bassoon started. But hi, Sans, Alessandro, and Jared, of course. So tonight, no general topic. It's just going to be a general Q&A. Whatever questions you guys have about the wind band, wind instruments, um, composing, scoring, making instruments, theory questions. So, yeah, it just a general free for all. We haven't done a free for all in several months, so I think it's time for that. And just go ahead and hit me with your best questions, and yeah, we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, I don't figure we'll go too long tonight, especially since I did the big stream last night. But so yeah, if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and ask. We'll kind of go from there. So in composing news, since I'm here and kind of have an open platform, I have kind of started the thinking process on a Symphony 5. I probably should hold off because I've been doing a symphony a year now for the past 3 years. But it's that time of year that, the starting a new symphony kind of comes to me. So we'll see. All right. This morning for Wind Ensemble, when I tried to play G on bassoon, it didn't come out and the G key got stuck. Any way to avoid sticky keys? Swap out the bassoon after you play. The G key is notorious because it is on the bottom of the instrument, and the pad got wet, and you just probably did not swab it out. And if the only kind of swab I will recommend is a pull through silk swab. Do not use one of those push rod swabs. Those are just nasty. They will damage the inside of your instrument. Pull through silk swab. If the key sticks regularly, you'll just need to have that pad replaced. But I think every bassoonist has had that key stick a time or two, and it's just one of those. Oh, yep, that's the G key sticking. Pull it up, and you're good to go. There are some tricks like putting talcum powder on it. I would not suggest doing that. If you do something like that, take the key all the way off. And then put the talcum powder on there, and then put the key back on. Do not put the talcum powder on while the key's installed. Have I seen the video of the guy who built their own contrabassoon? No. But I know that somebody back in the 70s, I think, built their own contrabassoon, and maybe even built two contrabassoons out of spare parts. And it was supposed to play okay, but I think it did end up looking like crap. But it played okay. I'm wondering if that's the same one. I mean, that contrabassoon would probably be getting close to 50 years old now, if it even still exists. It's kind of like the video of the guy who built the electric bassoon, the bassoon that had all the keys are actuated by electronics, which is an absolutely fascinating story, particularly if you read the backstory on the guy who invented it. I will not spoil it, but oh my god, it is one of the funniest stories. And the culmination of that story is the guy was forever banned from attending urology conventions. They made it from resin and it was recent. Interesting. Jared, you'll have to link that to me. I can't imagine um, building it out of resin, though. All right, do I have any experience with mandolin or guitar orchestras? What would the orchestration of such an ensemble look like? Any experience with Chinese Oriental instruments such as the erhu? Okay, so point two, no, I do not have any experience whatsoever with Chinese instruments. Mandolin orchestras were designed really to kind of just mirror the standard string section. So the mandolin is tuned exactly like a guitar. I'm sorry, like a violin. If you don't know, mandolin is actually the small version. The big version is it's called the mandola. Just like violin, viola, mandolin, mandola. Well, the big one is the mandocello. And then there are a few extant mando basses out there. But basically, you'd score it just mandolin, mandolin, mandola, mandocello, mandalorian. And Baby Yoda is conducting. And then I think you would use guitars along with the mandocellos. Alright, it was very DIY, but it sounds okay. Yeah, I'll have to look at it. Have you seen the vid of the guy working on the contrabassophone? At the end, he gives it a blow, and it was a huge sound. I have seen the video. I don't recall him playing it. I may have to watch that video again. Interesting, yeah. But yeah, the contrabassophone was a a dead end branch, basically. I mean, the modern version of it is the contraforte, which kind of is along the lines of the contrabassophone, but it's so much better. How does an electric bassoon work? So it's still an acoustic instrument, but all the keys are moved instead of on levers and rods are done by electric actuators. So it's instantaneous, and there's no play in the keys. It's just all electric. Have I seen any bassoon or oboe family videos? I mean, helicopter. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. I mean, I watch videos on individual instruments all the time. I mean, in fact, I saw, interestingly enough, today on the topic of kind of rare instruments, if you go to the New York Philharmonic's Facebook page, on like their live stream, they were talking heckelphone today. They had a heckelphone there. They had a very old heckelphone. They said that was number 25. So they said it was right at 100 years old, which would put it late 1910s. Interestingly, that particular heckelphone only has a low B flat. That heckelphone does not go to A. Hey, Patrick. Yes. I have not responded to your email yet. I absolutely do want to do a hangout with you concerning organ and historical keyboards. I'll send that email to you when we're done on here. Maybe we can schedule it for next week, next Thursday. We can kind of work out the details there, but there have been some more modern experiments using electronic controllers on woodwind instruments. The most recent is an instrument called the Clex, Clex. It is a contrabass clarinet where instead of just they put like regular B flat clarinet keywork on it, and then it has electronic actuators all the way up and down the body, and they're in everything on um, uh, da, 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 on electric actuators. Helicopter. There's a video called the Oboe Family Part 1 that has a contra alto oboe in it. I know what video you're talking about, Helicopter. I think those particular videos do more of a disservice than they do a service because they are promoting those instruments as if they are real when they are not. So I tend to treat those with quite a bit of skepticism. Do I know of any treble flutes that aren't made by Guo? Myle Allen, I believe, Myallallen, makes one, and it's a professional level G treble. And there's a few places that sell them, but so you can either get the Guo for like $900 or the Myle Allen for $5,000. The Clex looks amazing. I'm just worried it's going to be super expensive, completely defeating the purpose of an electric mechanism. Yeah, and it's going to be super expensive too because it's made by Schwenken Segelka, which is one of the preeminent clarinet boutique manufacturers out there. The video with the contra alto oboe has a disclaimer that says "don't exist." Yeah, but there's no commentary on it. There really needs to be some kind of commentary. The main advantage, I suppose, is that you can have as many vents as you want, and that would be a huge advantage on some of the very large instruments. I don't think you could fit them on some of the smaller instruments, but with using electric actuators, yeah. Although, even then, it still gets to the point of there's just a lot going on, and who knows? All right, what else do we have coming in? In fact, with the New York Philharmonic video today, I started really thinking, it probably wouldn't be that difficult to 3D print the body of a heckle foam. There's nothing overtly complicated about a heckle foam body. In fact, they're probably a little bit easier than an oboe body because they are a lot more thin-walled. Personally, I prefer not having to worry about finding an outlet for my contrabass clarinet. Absolutely, yeah. That, yeah. Helicopter, you're correct that it does show what it might sound like, it might look like. But I think the problem with the way those videos are presented is that younger players will look at those videos and they will think, because people don't read. We'll be honest, people don't read what's going on, and they're going to just see it on screen and think, oh, it exists. I'm going to ask my band director to play it. These unsuspecting 7th graders who believe everything they see or read on the internet, or don't read, but see on the internet. I have a neck and 1/3 of the upper joint printed in PETG. Uh, of a heckle phone? Or what do you have printed there, Jared? I mean, if you've got part of a heckle phone already printed, you know, what would be interesting to do that would a research project would be a trip out to Texas Tech to visit Richard Meek and his heckle phone and do some real intensive measurements on it to copy it. And I think that would be fruitful. I think he'd be up for that because use the modern technology because it does look like Heckle may start production on them again, but all signs point to them if they do it a new one costing about 50 grand. Because evidently the price of a new Heckle is 70 grand. That is just insane. $70,000 for a bassoon from them. So yeah. Anyway, did it with a .5 nozzle, so it's a bit rough. Yeah, .5 nozzle is a little bit bigger. I'm wondering almost for some of the finer stuff on the great bassoon, if, particularly like the wing joint, if I should switch to a smaller nozzle. Stephen Fox has full measurements, but he hasn't replied to my emails. Interesting. Honestly, Steve replies to Facebook messages easier than emails, I think. Does the Dulcian still exist? Absolutely. You can still get a new Dulcian made. They're going to be made by historical instrument makers. Guntram Wolf makes the full set of Dulcians. Eric Mulder makes them. Merck used to make them. I don't think Merck makes them anymore. I think Leslie Ross might. New Heckle bassoon or 2 Fox contra bassoons with change to spare. Interesting. He hasn't replied on Facebook either. Who knows? Steve's an interesting guy. He is as quirky as they come, but yeah. But anyway, yeah. I think you kind of have to be that level of quirky though if you're instrument design. Do I know the cost of the Lupophone off the top of my head? When Mikey was here, he said they were going about 25,000. When they first came out, the Lupophones were going for 16, which was not too bad. I mean, the Luray bass was about 12, so the Lupophone was 16, and that was going to be really competitive at that price. But now that they're up at about 25 mark, that's really going to be pretty high. But I'm just making mine based off an oboe with the same 1.5 degree taper. Is an oboe only... well, I guess 1.5 degree is really wide compared to what we're using. I mean, because bassoon's 0.8. Okay, yeah, that'd be about right. It's one of those, though, I would love to get the measurements from Richard Meek. I think that if we do that, we could get a lot more substantial. That would be a fun road trip. I think there'd be lots of stuff we could do there. In fact, wouldn't be too difficult to go from there out to Albuquerque to meet up with Rufus, who could make the vocal. So, yeah. All right, what else do we have? Any weird instrument questions? I don't know. Do you guys want to hear kind of my thoughts on the Symphony 5 that is just starting to brew in my head? I just got some tubes 3D printed yesterday, except they're not airtight enough and doesn't work. So unless I find a way to seal those gaps. I've wasted my money. Um, well, helicopter depends on, yeah, what kind of tubes you were printing. It sounds like some settings are probably off on your 3D printer. Uh, Getting stuff like that airtight, you do have to have some more fine tune on the settings. Um, like you you don't want to be doing airtight um, with a very thin wall. I don't think you're going to be able to do airtight with a thin wall. You're going to need probably a wall of like 5 millimeters to really ensure it to be fully airtight. What mess of auxiliaries do you have brewing for Symphony 5? Oh, Jared has the YouTube all finished. Nice. I am currently waiting on a new spool of filament to arrive. I've had the the next part of the serpent paused since last night, and then I've just run out of filament. So Jared now has in his hands the first part of the Great Bassoon. Sweet, awesome sauce. So the plan for Symphony 5 is not necessarily using a lot of auxiliaries. But it is going to be a big ensemble. I'm not going to do the what I did with Symphony 4, which is used pretty much standard. So one of the things I want to do is I'm already thinking about seating arrangement as I'm doing it. So left side of the conductor is going to be the big clarinet section, and I think I had like 24 clarinets. So including, like 8 B flats, 2 E flats, 2 C's, 4 altos, 4 basses, 2 great basses, 2 contrabasses. So it's like a full string section over here. Over here on the, actually it'd be in the center and to the right. So where the violas and the front rows of cellos are, would be your saxophones. And a section of 16 saxophones. So together, 16 saxophones, 24 clarinets, and you get this big, massive single reed section. What is that? Is that 40 players total? It's 32. It's actually 24 because Brett can't math. But 24 clarinets and 16 saxes. But behind that would be 8 cellos and 6 double basses, or 10 cellos and 8 basses. One of those. So a full low string section. And then flutes, oboes, bassoons would kind of act as your woodwinds. Helicopter, you might want to look into a spray sealant. I've had some success spraying lacquer on it. This is just a clear spray lacquer that might work. But that's going to depend on the material. If I'd have to know what material it's printed in. If it's printed in PLA, if it's printed in what is it? ABS. You could fill in all of those just by putting some acetone on it, because the acetone will melt that, and it turns it into a plastic cement. But so yeah, that's kind of the idea of the ensemble. Then a large brass section, no trumpets, cornets only. They're PLA. Yeah, you're gonna have to have some kind of sealant on it, helicopter. That's about all I can say. Are they? Is it leaking at like a glued joint or between the layers? If it's leaking between the layers, you got more of a problem. If it's leaking between the glued joints, that's just super glue. Something else you could do is If you want to find each individual hole, get the whole tube wet, rub it down with like dishwashing soap, uh, and then blow air into it and see where all the holes are, and then mark them. I'd mark them with something maybe like chalk, and then you can put a dot of super glue on each of those holes, and that will seal it up. It's not ideal, but it would work. So yeah, but the musical concept of the other big thing that Symphony 5 would have would be a choir. So yeah, I'd like to do a wordless choir. It's between some layers. Helicopter. I would talk to whoever printed it and say that the print job was not quality and see what they can do to help you out. Otherwise, it's a failed print, is what it is. And without being able to adjust your settings, 3D printing a lot of times is not designed to be airtight. So it's very difficult unless you're controlling the parameters yourself. I agree with Jared. Yeah, they use a super thick layer height to reduce your print time. All right. So I'm kind of rambling between questions and talking about the idea for Symphony 5. Symphony 5, I think, would be kind of like the third in the trilogy of big pieces. So Symphony 2 is the forest. Symphony 3 is all about the mountains. Well, Symphony 5 would be really, as to me, the ocean. I'm not, I kind of want to go for a very impressionistic, Ravel, Daphnis, and Chloe like textures. And I kind of want to do the whole thing is like the journey from the first drop in the river to the grandness of the ocean. Just this big, constant crescendo over like an hour. I think something like that would be absolutely fantastic. And I think that kind of, not necessarily a diverse ensemble, but an ensemble with a lot of different players. Because, I talked about this in the video where I talk about how to compose for a very large ensemble. You can have very quiet music with a lot of different instruments, or you can have very loud music with a lot of the same instrument. Continuing this, would it be a big one movement piece like 2 and 3? Probably so. I work better in the one movement form. It's actually easier for me to conceive of a piece that way. I don't like having that arbitrary break between movements. I like telling one continuous narrative. So in that regard, Symphony 4 was a little bit more difficult to write because you the maintaining a cohesiveness between each individual movement while still maintaining each individual movement's individual uniqueness was difficult. And whereas if I do one continuous, I feel that's more my style. Who knows? I have opened up a finale file with it. I haven't done anything else. So it would be a big, long project. And believe it or not, even a year on from the completion of Symphony 3, technically it's not even still done. Because I've never finished the score on it. I do not have a print score of Symphony 3. I would love to get one. I have not actually finished the score editing and engraving on it. And that's just, it's so overwhelming that it's one of those, I don't even want to think about tackling it. It's something like, I think it's something like 400 pages. So, but yeah, it's big, it's massive. If I do a Symphony 5, it'll be bigger. Because, Mr. Practicality. All right, what else do we have question-wise? If not, it's pretty quiet, and we might just call it a night. I might do some chores around here because all the streams I've been doing, my workspace has been getting a mess. Have I watched some of the Music Theory guys' videos? I don't know the Music Theory guys. Sorry. I've actually thought about doing a video with like the my favorite music YouTubers. Do you prefer pairing horns high and low, 1, 3, 2, 4, or the numerical order? In the score, it's always 1, 2, 3, 4, but in the scoring, it's 1, 3, 2, 4. So I always interlock them unless there's a reason not to, like following counterpoint lines. But in the score, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I never do 1 and 3 on the same staff and 2 and 4 on the same staff. Horn players, by the way, hate that. They do not like it when you get a part that says horn 1 and 3, horn 2 and 4. In fact, horn players don't like it when they get a part that says horn 1 and 2, horn 3 and 4. They just want horn 1, horn 2, horn 3, horn 4. Patrick, I will get that email sent. I'll do that probably later tonight. We'll set up a time for that. But yeah, no, I'm very much a traditionalist on that. Score your horns 1, 3, 2, 4, but put them in the scores 1, 2, 3, 4. If that makes any sense to you. All right, what else do we have question-wise? I know you guys probably have some deep and abiding nerdy questions about something. Okay, so here's something I was thinking about earlier. I was thinking about high clarinets. I was going back and reading some stuff, and you know, we've got the high A flat clarinet, and that's about as small as we can make a small clarinet. But A flat's really a stupid transposition. I wonder why the G clarinet, half a step lower, was not more prevalent. It would make transposition so much easier. It would get you those extra high notes. Have I ever written pieces in the time signature 9498, 188 before? I've never written 188. I'm sure I've written 98 before. 98's not it's not uncommon. That's just triplet 3/8 or yet 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. As far as 9/4, have I done 9/4? I've done 7/4. I've done 11/4, but I don't think I've actually done a 9/4. There's a few 11/4 bars in Symphony 4 in the second movement. And you said some horn players are vouching for concert pitch and alto clef. I think mezzo soprano clef would work better. It's like treble clef down a fifth. Yeah, well, yeah, but nobody reads mezzo soprano clef is the thing. So, have I watched Lindsay Pollock's videos on YouTube? I've seen them. I mean, they're pretty gimmicky. I think it's because the Italian military band they still do. A-flat clarinets made more sense than G, like D-flat versus C piccolo. Interestingly, Giuseppe Verdi in the band parts to La Traviata and maybe some of the other operas. I've not checked out all of the what we call the banda parts. The banda parts were the onstage musicians, and the top clarinet player would go back and forth between A flat and G clarinets. So in La Traviata, there are A flat and G clarinet parts. Has anyone actually used a soprillo sax in a useful context within a piece? I am sure someone has. I do not know off the top of my head an orchestra or a band piece that makes use of the soprillo sax. They're still really, really new. You would need a real advocate composer for them, and they're really hard to play. One theory is that the early piccolo clarinets were in G, but they were high pitched, so when low pitch became standard, they became A flat instruments. And that's probably a pretty valid theory, too. Um, the the Austrian, the Viennese Schrammelmusik, um, had the G clarinet as a standard member of its ensemble. I heard someone one day call an F alto saxophone an F melody and also call a C tenor a mezzo alto. Well, that person just had a slip of their tongue. It's an F mezzo or an F alto and a C melody. Um, yeah, so yeah, I would cut that person some slack, and they just had a spoonerism. Those aren't uncommon. I as much as I talk on these, I'm sure I've said something is equally as silly. Yeah, Sans that's it's not unheard of because I mean, if you look at it, the high pitch was A equals 457 roughly. And then they go to low pitch in Italy, particularly the low pitch in Italy was 435, even sometimes as low as 432. So the difference between 457 and 432 is right at that half step. So I mean that would be I mean the perfect interval to oh, okay, we're moving from this to this. Yeah, okay, we're just in a new key now. That person is in a retirement home. Yeah, yeah, cut them some slack. They're, you know, they're probably thinking of much more important things in names of instruments from the 1920s. My God, those instruments are 100 years old now. Well, almost. So the F altos, the cons will be. They came out in 28. So this is their 10th decade. Yeah. So let's see. I don't know if I made this public. My new piece, "Beautiful Desolation," does have a, a premiere date. It will be premiered in New York City on March the 29th. Dr. Paul Cohen will be playing the saxophone part, and the Columbia University Wind Ensemble will be doing playing the accompaniment. Fingers crossed, I'm going to try and get there. It's been a while since I've actually been able to attend one of the premieres of my pieces, but yeah, so that piece is getting played. I got all the parts off to the conductor and Dr. Cohen a couple days ago, and they're going to be hard at work over the next 2 months learning the piece. What's a band nerd? Person who likes wind band. I mean, I've been reading up on Verdi's Chimborazo. It looks like earlier works called for something between an ophicleide and a serpent. No, it's exactly right. So, early Chimborazo, so something from. I'm trying to think what early Verdi would be. Would early Verdi be Nabucco? I think that's early Verdi. Yeah, they were using the bass horn, which is corno in basso. C in basso. Chimbasso. And so, yeah, it was the English bass horn, which was the same instrument, really, that Felix Mendelssohn was using early in his career with pieces like the Overture for Winds, the Char Music, and the Overture to Midsummer Night's Dream. Only the overture. The rest of Midsummer Night's Dream is ophicleide. By the time Verdi got to the Requiem, he's moved over to this beastie here. So he's moved over to the ophicleide. Um, but by the last two operas, which are Falstaff and Otello, he is using the valve contrabass trombone, but calling that a cimbasso. Is he actually calling it? Um, well, anyway, have I heard of Phil Jinsky's Tribute to Drive? I don't know it. Is that a band piece? I've uploaded a video where I put a long boom whacker in my bass clarinet bell and then played the lowest note. It actually changed the harmonic series of the low note. It went to F1. Well, I mean, yeah, that's fundamentally what you're doing. You're just lengthening the pipe. So, yeah, I mean that's what you would do. It's not acoustically accurate. Tony, is that a wind band piece? You're gonna have to tell me more about it. I mean, bassoon players do that all the time by sticking an extension in our bell. So, just a low A extension is my low A extension in the other room. It's about this much taller. So that's essentially all you're doing there, helicopter, is just putting an extension in the bell. It's bassoon players have been doing it for years because we have to do it when anytime a Mahler symphony comes up. I think all the Mahler symphonies, except maybe like I don't think 8 has it, but they all have. Tony, you're about to get banned from here. So yeah, the Verdi's use of whatever the lowest lowest brass instrument is a dissertation level research project. And actually, I have the dissertation on my dissertation shelf over there. So it's been done. It's a book level discussion though. All right. What other questions do we have tonight? I meant it over blew the octave because the Boomwhacker 2 has a larger diameter than the bass clarinets. Oh, interesting. Sands. Mahler 5 has tons of impossible low B flats in the flutes. Well, they weren't impossible for Mahler's flutes. A lot of the flutes in Mahler 5 for Mahler's time did have B flats. That was not unheard of at the time. In Austria, in Czechoslovakia or Bohemia, they were not using the Böhm system flute fully by the time when Mahler was writing. They were still using simple system flutes, and yeah, a lot of those instruments would have had a low B flat. So Mahler knew exactly what he was doing. Mahler's bassoons had low A's. So you don't find a lot of things that are impossible for the instruments that Mahler actually knew. They're hard, but not impossible. Absolutely brilliant orchestrator there. I was looking at some Mahler scores earlier today. I'm writing one of the new chapters for the next book. I'm actually writing the chapter on cello usage. I was looking at some Mahler stuff. There is one of the Das Knaben Wunderhorn. The final song from Das Knaben Wunderhorn is for basically wind band, cellos, and strings. Cellos and basses. Which I'm going to need to kind of really examine a little bit more. But fascinating scoring for Mahler. How common are low A bassoons? Not common at all. I have seen one true low A bell before in my life. That I saw the bell, but I didn't. It was not attached to an instrument. Personally, I know one player who has one. It's Christian Ronas. He's got a low A bell, and the piece I wrote for him has low A's in it, but that's just for him to kind of show off. But surprisingly, you know, low A's turn up in a bunch of literature. There's Wagner, there's Mahler, Nielsen, Prokofiev, that all have big important low A's. Just out of curiosity, what would happen if you coated the inside of a vocal with hydrophobic coating? Would that make the spit problem any better? Um, Interesting question. I am not sure. Um, I don't know. That is something for a material scientist to answer. Um, I actually have one of my former students, former bassoon students, went into to chemistry, and I've asked her a few times about, some chemical stuff on that. Um, I don't know. I don't think you're really going to make that much of a difference, um, because you're not really dealing with the spit problem. And it's not spit. It is condensation, because the vocal is one temperature, the air going into it is a different temperature, and so just the difference between the warm, hot air going in versus the cold metal is just, that's what's causing the issue there. I saw a comment on a G mezzo soprano saxophone where they said they wanted a G tenor called a mezzo tenor. I don't think he know what mezzo means. Well, mezzo just means middle. So, uh, mezzo tenor would be I mean, theoretically, yes, you could have a G tenor. I don't know what you would call it. Mezzo tenor might work. Maybe mezzo. Well, no, because mezzo soprano is lower than the soprano. Mezzo tenor would be lower than tenor. So I don't think that person was really out of the question there. Why are low A bells not in use today? That would be kind of cool. Mostly because they do get, if you're a professional player, you'll probably get a low A once a season. They add a lot of extra expense. Um, and what it basically boils down to with a low A is you can have a low A bell or you can have a low B flat bell. But the moment you go interchanging them, the tuning starts getting out of whack in the upper register. And there just has not been enough coal for them to become standard. I mean, Heckle made them. I don't think they do anymore. Who knows what Heckle does? I mean, last I heard, it's still a 7-year wait to get a Heckle bassoon. But yeah, it's just they're expensive and they add a lot. Despite the extensive literature, is it really worth extending the bassoon even lower than it already is? Well, Wagner thought so. Mahler thought so. Past them, not so much. I thought tenor was the most medium voice. Well, okay. So tenor is the high male voice. Alto is the low female voice. You can go a step higher than tenor in male voice. That's the countertenor. And so you could have countertenor which is the same range as the female voice. Yeah. So the prefix mezzo just means middle in relation to what's around it. It's really countertenor or contralto would be middler. Okay, so this is be education time. So, what do the names actually mean? So we'll start off with bass. Bass, well, is very simple. It just means the low sound. It's literally the base, B-A-S-E, of the ensemble. Contrabass, if we go one step lower, contra just means against. So it's against the bass underneath. Typically, contrabass means it's doubling the bass an octave lower. Soprano is derived from superius. Superius meaning the highest. So that's really easy. Soprano, super, soprano. Alto, however, means high. But the term is actually contralto. It's against the high. So against the soprano. Tenor, on the other hand, means held. It is the held note in between. So bass, then you hold a note against the bass. High voice, soprano, and then against the soprano is the alto. Now you can have countertenor. So countertenor means above. Counter above, contra below. The other terms, like piccolo or sopranino, these are only used for instruments. Piccolo just means small, sopranino just means small soprano. Baritone, the term baritone means low sound. Bari is low and tone is sound. The term great bass would mean just a bigger version of the bass. Herein is why terms like contralto don't make sense. Contralto is contralto, so it's against the high. So yeah. Something. Hi, Emily. We're just having a hangout tonight. No real topic tonight. I thought tenor was called that because it would hold the main line in relation to the counterpoint around it, at least in the Renaissance. Yeah, and that's kind of where it came from. Yeah, it's holding the line. Are the modern terms all messed up then? No. The modern terms are relative to their vocal parts. So soprano, alto, tenor, bass is how we've used it. At one point, there were other terms that were used. You would see terms like quintus or sextus. So a quintus line would be a line a fifth above, or a sextus line would be a line a sixth above. All right, thanks for stopping by, Emily. If you want to just put like your headphones on, you won't be. The landlord should not get upset for that. If not, you need a new landlord. Case in point, I've got a Renaissance score behind me, and I'm going to get it down. I don't get this score down very often. The largest score I own. It's so large it will not fit on my shelves. This is one of the most impressive works of Renaissance polyphony ever composed. Thomas Tallis' Spem and Allium. And if you do not know Spem and Allium, oh man. this is the score to Spiminalium. So yeah, 40 parts in the choir, and yeah, these would have it's difficult to know exactly which parts you would have, but that I'm gonna study that some. I may try and incorporate some Renaissance polyphony in Symphony 5. Maybe. Who knows? All right. So if we got any more questions, so we can. I'm going nearly an hour now. It's about right for tonight. Yeah, but so the big news is Jared has the first part of the Great Bassoon. I've got the file. My printer is on permanent pause right now until more filament comes in tomorrow. And we'll each have the first part to the Quint Bassoon, or the Great Bassoon, which is really exciting. So we'll kind of keep you updated on that. And I remember the sub-contrabass video you made where you said that you banned a YouTube channel for asking repetitive questions. Yes, well, I have done that a couple times. Typically, it's not just the repetitive, it's that they are spam, basically. Question, can you make these sessions a little earlier at some point? Emily, we'll see. The 7:30 has really worked out pretty well. Because I'm an hour later than you, or earlier, I guess. We've got some people in here who've been here from Australia too, so we'll see. Are the Band Nerd Hangouts occurring on Thursdays? Yes, they've been on Thursdays now for several months. So always Thursdays at 7:30 Central Time. I don't know what time zone you're in, but that's kind of been the consensus of what works. And I should do a better job of getting those posted or announced a little sooner, but it's pretty much always Thursday 7:30. The only times we've moved that are like I think we moved it around. Well, we didn't do one on Thanksgiving because that was Thursday, and we just moved that to Friday. But otherwise, yeah, it's typically Thursday. Hey, sweeter. Yeah, you're a little late. Okay, Emily, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, your landlord doesn't like you typing. My lord, that's persnickety. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. That's no bueno. But yeah. Well, Emily, if you when on my channel, if you have you should be able to hit like the bell, and that'll turn notifications on anytime I upload something or announce a stream. That should give you a warning that that's coming up. Do I plan on doing another general question stream in the future? Yes, I will probably end up doing a general one once a month. Emily, a suggestion on that: if a lot of sound goes through the floor, find a pillow to put the keyboard or the laptop on. That way, the pillow is absorbing the keystrokes, and it's not going directly into a desk. If that is still making sound, then your landlord's just an a-hole. But anyway, guys, I think I'm going to call it for tonight. And I think we'll come back next week with organ and historical keyboards because Patrick wanted to join in the stream for that. So we'll do a Skype session on that. So anyway, it's been fun, and I'll keep you updated on that. Okay, so yeah, Jared, talk to me in the Discord on that, and we'll discuss that. All right. So I'll talk to you later.